Security. Mike, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, Tony, great to be with you as always.
Yeah, welcome back to D.C. I know you're just getting off a plane landing here, and wanted to get your thoughts because, I mean, obviously this is an area of jurisdiction your committee has over, but it's also a constitutional issue which you're quite familiar with.
It is indeed. I was on a flight for the last hour and a half, and I'll tell you what, the world changes. The news breaks so fast these days. I'm just absorbing this as I've gotten off the plane, but it's certainly a great day. Look, we've made the point all along that carefully vetting any person entering our country from areas known to be terrorist strongholds, it shouldn't be controversial at all. It's just common sense. I mean, we're protecting the homeland as a critical right of any sovereign nation, and I'm so delighted that the big majority of the Supreme Court has seen fit to uphold this order. It just makes sense. It's going to keep the nation safe.
And historically, the courts have been very deferential to the executive office when it comes to the issue of immigration, because that clearly is something that falls to the president, because as you just pointed out, it's a national security issue. And I think when you look at this decision today by the court, again, it's simply allowing the enforcement to go into effect until it makes its way through the court system. But only 2 justices did not agree with that. And so I think that's quite significant when you have a court that's so evenly split almost on almost everything, that you have only 2 in this case. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor were the only 2 that didn't go along with it.
That's right, because this one is an easy call. This is not a marginal call at all. Look, the Constitution is very clear. The president is the commander-in-chief. And among his principal responsibilities is keeping the people safe, keeping the nation safe. He is privy to obviously to the highest classified information, the top secret information that informs his decisions. He has a bright military advisors around him, people who know this business better than anyone. And they are on the wall, so to speak, Tony, keeping watch all the time, and they know where the threats are. But look, this is one that virtually every American can attest to. Everyone recognizes the importance of this one. You're talking about adding another layer of very careful vetting of persons coming from nations that are known terrorist strongholds. I mean, we're talking about North Korea and Libya and Iran. I mean, nations like that we know pose a direct and serious threat to the American people. This is something the president must do. It's something he should have done, and I'm so grateful the court recognizes that.
You're listening to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. Glad to have you with us on this Monday afternoon. Congressman Mike Johnson represents the 4th Congressional District of Louisiana, talking about breaking news out of the Supreme Court today. The court allowing the travel ban by the Trump administration to go into effect. Now, Mike, this coming week, we're going to see oral arguments or we're going to see both the Ninth Circuit and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals are going to be holding arguments this week on the travel ban. This would suggest that we're probably going to look at an outcome where you're going to have the Fourth Circuit probably siding with the president, the Ninth Circuit not. So you're going to have a split, or you're going to do a competing opinions. So most likely, is this going to make its way to the Supreme Court?
It certainly seems that way. As you note, when you have a circuit split, that makes a case very probable for Supreme Court review. Certainly, when you have an issue that's of this great importance to the nation and its people. So I think you're right. I think many of us guess that the Ninth Circuit will go the wrong way on this, as they are apt to do. The Fourth Circuit, I would expect, will get it right, and then you have a circuit split, and it will wind up in the laps of the court. I do agree that this is an important signal that we got today, that at least a majority, at least at this stage, recognizes that this one is an easy call, that the president has the responsibility, the constitutional authority to issue the executive order. It is not targeted at any particular persons other than terrorists, and that's exactly where our attention should be. I think it'll pass constitutional muster, and it will keep the homeland safe.
I mean, you can't read too much into this decision today, simply allowing the ban to go into effect while the appellate court does its work. But it would suggest to me, with only 2 justices not agreeing to that, that if this this current iteration of the ban lands before the nation's highest court, that it actually might find a favorable hearing?
I think so. I spent 20 years in federal courts litigating constitutional law cases, and when an injunction is sought, when a TRO or a temporary restraining order is sought, and the court does not see fit to issue it, it always bodes well for those defending the law that's being challenged, or in this case, the executive order. So you're right. We can't read too much into it, but my gut is that this one would ultimately be upheld, and I certainly hope that's true. We live in a very dangerous time, and as members of Congress, we're privy to these top secret briefings. Look, you cannot take these threats too seriously. By God's grace, we have been spared a large-scale terrorist attack on our soil like we had on 9/11. But part of the reason we've been able to prevent those great tragedies on that scale is because we have the careful vetting of those who are coming into the country who seek to do us harm. This is a part of that. It's one component of our national security, and it's one that we need to uphold.
Well, certainly this is good news to President Trump, as he has taken some lumps over his travel ban in the press and by the courts. But this comes on the heels of another victory, and that was in the wee hours of Saturday morning, the United States Senate finally agreeing to a measure that would reform America's tax system. First time in over 30 years. Now the two bills, very different in the House than from the Senate, those two come together, and sometime possibly this week or next, we'll see some kind of compromise emerge. Are you optimistic?
I am very optimistic, and I've been saying this for months. I believe that this would happen, and it would be, as I said on several programs weeks ago, this would be the largest Christmas present to the American people in over 30 years. I think we're going to get it done before the end of this year, and it's going to be a great gift to begin January 1 to really be a turbo boost to our economy. I don't have any doubt that in the conference committee that I'm sure we'll all vote to affirm that the differences, the relatively minor differences between the House and Senate versions will be worked out, because I think that people recognize how important this will be to the American people. We're going to get this one over the line, and it's going to be a great victory.
The vote in the Senate, 51-49, with Republican Bob Corker of Tennessee, the only member of the GOP to side with the Democrats in opposition. Like the House bill, the Senate bill nearly doubles the standard deduction level to $12,000 for individuals. That's up from about $6,350, and $24,000 for couples. That's up from $12,700. Also, the child tax credit is in there. One thing that is missing, Congressman Johnson, is the Johnson Amendment, not to be confused with you, but Lyndon Johnson, that tried to silence churches. And, of course, you were one of the key co-sponsors of that bill in the House. Is that going to be in conference?
I genuinely believe that it will be included. I've spent a great amount of time over the last several weeks talking with Chairman Kevin Brady on the House Ways and Means Committee and those who are likely to be serving on that conference committee. I believe we have a real agreement there of the necessity of that. We were delighted to have it included in the House version. Disappointed it did not make it into the Senate version, but I think at the end of the day we'll be able to have that included. I certainly hope that's true, and look, I'll issue it as a prayer request this evening on your program that we need to get that one over the line, because it will right a wrong that has been in the tax code since the 1950s, an unconstitutional measure, and I think the day has come to correct it.
One last question for you, Mike Johnson. What's the time frame here? What are we looking at?
We're going to find out that very soon. I'm literally in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the interstate trying to get back to the Capitol right now. There'll be meetings tonight, some strategy sessions and updates of things that happened over the last 24 hours, and we'll be given probably an expected timetable of what the vote schedule and everything looks like for the rest of the week. I believe, at least on the House side, everyone's committed to moving this quickly and getting it done. I think the President's anxious to get it on his desk, and I hope we can accommodate it.